le nouveau coronavirus. 1. Lavez-vous régulièrement les mains à l'eau et au savon ou à l'aide d'un gel hydroalcoolique. 2. Vous ressentez l'envie de tousser ou d'éternuer? Faites-le dans un mouchoir ou dans le creux de votre coude, puis lavez-vous les mains. 3. Restez à au moins 1 mètre de distance des autres personnes, surtout si elles toussent, éternuent ou ont de la fièvre. 4. Évitez de vous toucher les yeux, le nez et la bouche. 5. Évitez tout contact direct avec des animaux vivants. Et si cela est impossible, veillez à vous laver les mains après le contact. 6. Ne mangez pas de produits animaux crus ou mal cuits et lavez-vous les mains. Nettoyez les surfaces et les ustensiles après usage. 7. Si vous avez de la fièvre, de la toux ou des difficultés à respirer, consultez un médecin.
If you suspect you may have a coronavirus infection, please call your healthcare provider in advance and let them know you are coming. This can help them be prepared. WHO recommends preventive measures to reduce your risk. Wash your hands frequently using soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. Avoid eating raw meat and unnecessary contact with wild animals. Avoid close contact with anyone with flu-like symptoms. When coughing and sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with a flexed elbow. Or use a tissue. Take particular precaution while traveling. Seek medical care early.
Hello everyone, I'm Bob Jonathan, and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital. Dwelling our top stories in this edition of the news: Vigilante Committee members in the crisis-stricken northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon are arrested, and regions of the country. And out of Cameroon, the rival government in eastern Libya has resigned over protests concerning protests provoked by deteriorating living conditions and corruption. Thanks, dear viewers, for joining us in this edition of the news. We begin right away in the crisis-hit northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where some vigilante committee members were arrested and maltreated, better still tortured by armed civilians, and this has put to question the idea of vigilante committees supported by some government authorities in the efforts to track down separatist fighters in the two English-speaking regions in crisis for close to 4 years today. However, Legal Mind has condemned the maltreatment of the civilians in that part of the country who have constituted themselves in vigilante committees to track down separatist fighters. Details with Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
Yes. The anti-gang then this so.
At the start of the video are seen 13 men alleged to be members of the Nkwen village vigilante group in captivity of individuals who identified themselves as Amber Boys, referring to armed militias in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon.
Yes.
As the video proceeds, the alleged captives are given a humiliating and dehumanizing treatment by the said separatists.
Yes, and then this so.
In pidgin English, the separatists could be heard saying that the captives were sent by the Nkwen village fund to hunt them along one of their tracks from Bafut subdivision.
Send us stick me go before.
The captives are promised death by the captors who display machetes and other local weapons supposedly seized from them. To fact-checked, Equinoxe Television contacted sources at the Nkwenfon's palace, where we gathered that the palace had never conceived an idea of creating a village vigilante group. The sources at Nkwen Palace, however, identified the individuals captured as residents of Nkwen and wondered loud, like Barrister Tamfo Richard, why they should be dished such treatments.
Where you see them being wrapped or asked to creep in mud, such acts should be condemned, because that's an inhumane treatment to human dignity, and such barbaric acts should not be tolerated. You see, we are having this type of scenarios today simply because we have accepted that the ongoing war in the Anglophone region should still continue to go. And when you have this type of incident, you are asking ourselves, where are we heading to? You understand that
the legal mind is also worried about the wrong use of the village vigilante group concept by the Cameroonian army.
The fight is taking a different turn. And today, when you have members of a vigilante group being arrested by separatist leaders, you ask yourself, what is the role of vigilante members in the armed conflict that is ongoing? Because a vigilante group supposes that there is a law that has instituted in place such a committee, and you know how maybe they are recruited, how they are being trained, and how they are being sent to the field. But if the Cameroon military is maybe using vigilante groups to help them in their military operations, I think this to me is not conventional and it's not professional by the
region.
And a member of the Constitutional Council of the Republic of Cameroon, Professor Paul Quia, said that everyone must be brought on board without prejudice to find a way out of the Anglophone crisis. He indicated that the question about the leadership of the English-speaking people of the Republic of Cameroon is out of place because people from the northwest and southwest regions of the country have leaders, well-known leaders. Take a listen to Professor Paul Quia.
Unless we address this honestly, without any prejudices, we will never solve this problem. You know the Anglophone fighters, who you call them separatists, they have a leadership. And that leadership is in the diaspora and in Kondenge. Right? You cannot ignore them. That's number one. If you remember, South Africa achieved solved its own problems while they negotiated with the prisoner. Despite the problems we have had over these 4 years, we cannot deny that the Anglophone or the Northwest and Southwest don't have a leadership. They have a leadership. And that leadership is both in government, people like ourselves, and out of government. Those in the diaspora, how much have they been involved in the process of resolving the crisis? How many of those in prison are involved in the negotiation of resolving this issue? What I'm saying, those in the diaspora and those out, as well as those in government, are critical components of a solution for the future.
Professor Paul Kui, member of the Constitutional Council of Cameroon, speaking there about the Anglophone crisis, and the senior divisional officer of the Mezam Division, Mo Emir, has banned public manifestations in his area of command. He is the latest of the administrative authorities to take such decisions. Among them, of course, the governor of the littoral region of the country, who was equally banned on declared public manifestations in his area of command ahead of the September planned public protest of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party. And the leaders of the CRM have been meeting with some political and civil society leaders, including leaders of the Cameroon People's Party, the Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society Platform, the Popular Action Party, in view of that public manifestation, and the Social Democratic Front also. But the leaders of the Social Democratic Front have simply said, according to the national chairman of the party, that they are not ready to further destabilize Cameroon, which is already at the point of sinking. And of course, other political leaders have been standing for such manifestations, such a pathway to bring down the present regime. The Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society Platform, for example, and the CPP, as well as the PAP political party and others, have been standing for a political transition and urging Cameroonians to rise up, take to the streets in peaceful protests to bring down the present regime, which, according to them, has failed to deliver in the past 4 decades in the Republic of Cameroon. Now we talk something else, still within the framework of public manifestations. Some traders in the Dakar market here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, were protesting against some irregularities in the management of that market here in Douala. And Innocent has the fires in details.
A rowdy Dakar market early Monday. Traders of the Dakar market in Douala do not want to set eyes on the one they call Money Joseph, market master who has sealed the shop of their president-elect with authorization from the Douala City Council, despite emerging victor of the 5 times repeated election.
C'est nous qui avons élu notre président. Et les votes se sont passés dans des bonnes et dues formes au marché Dakar.
They also demanded the shop of their new market president be unsealed by the city mayor, who for this has not been encountered.
On n'a pas rencontré le super maire. Jusqu'aujourd'hui, il reste introuvable. Malgré tous nos doléances.
Despite our pain, complaints deposited, we have not been received.
On ne nous a pas reçus. Quand le Cameroun, quand le monde entier est dans un crise.
Our president has paid all his taxes, and so his shop should be unsealed.
Qui a payé tous ses impôts, qui a payé tous ses taxes. Vraiment, notre souhait est d'abord qu'on décèle sa boutique.
We should be allowed to freely choose our president or representative.
De choisir leur représentant.
In solidarity, all traders decided to keep their shops locked till that of their president-elect is unsealed. These disgruntled traders wish for peace, peace which can only come with the departure of the set market master, Money Joseph.
Le régisseur, quand il dit qu'il est le neveu du super maire.
As at now, neither the city mayor nor the senior divisional officer of Wuri has addressed the traders or replied to their complaints tabled. All they expect is prompt and positive action from these administrative authorities for peace to reign.
And back to the Anglophone crisis, members of the two factions of the Union des Populations du Cameroun UPC political party are calling for a return to peace and normalcy in those two regions. They were speaking during the celebration of the life of one of theirs, one of the nationalist leaders, Ruben Nyobe, who was assassinated, and two different ceremonies took place in Edea and Ezeka in the littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, led by two leaders of two different factions of the party. Immaculate Fokwe has more.
The commemoration of the death of a Cameroonian nationalist, Ruben Nyobe, did not succeed to reunite the two factions of the UPC political party. In Ezeka, Pierre Baligelncourt, Secretary General of the party, alongside the wife of the late nationalist and other party members, visited the tomb of the hero, where songs and prayers were carried out in memory of the vibrant nationalist. Baligelncourt used the occasion to call for the return of peace and normalcy in Cameroon. We want peace to return in the northwest and southwest regions. The death of Ruben Nyobe reminds us of the different revendications that he championed with regards to the unification of Cameroon, an action which he had to pay with his life. Let's be united so the country can forge ahead. The other faction of the UPC party, headed by Mbapo Liport, gathered in the Sandaga Maritime Division. They inaugurated the monument that was built in honor of the fallen heroes of the UPC party. The head of state, Paul Biya, was represented by Jean Kweti, Secretary General of the Central Committee of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement political party. The focal point of this year's commemoration is that peace should return in Cameroon and that the population should refrain from extremists who are determined to destabilize the country. Ruben Nyobe was killed by the French colonial administration on the 13th of September 1958 for denouncing the French colonial rule in Cameroon and calling for the reunification of the French and British Cameroons.
The fake lieutenant was arrested by elements of the Mobile Intervention Unit number 2 of the police force in the littoral region. He was in possession of a fake pistol and a knife, as well as a military belt, and the 32-year-old claims he is a civil employee in the ministry, is a civil servant in the Ministry of Defense. Details with Innocent Azi.
A suspected fake Air Force element, Azele Heve, alias Sub-Lieutenant Obam Landry, 32 years, apprehended in Yassa Douala 3 subdivision by elements of the GMI number 2 for the littoral.
Avec des attributs et attendez et des insignes et tout ce que ça comporte. Alors que vous n'êtes pas militaire.
Though arrested in civilian wear, he was in possession of this military uniform at home.
Je me retrouve à la tenue militaire s'est retrouvée entre mes mains, c'est tout dans mon sac, je suis chez mon petit ami.
One of his girlfriends he wears the uniform to impress had snapped him and forwarded the pictures to security officers, who then traced him and his house searched.
J'avais la tenue parce qu'à la maison, je voulais impressionner la fille qui était à la maison. J'ai dit que moi-même, je travaille avec les militaires, c'est ce que je lui ai dit.
Questioned, he claims to be a civil employee in the Ministry of Defense, with documents attesting this status, but no valid cards to show proof.
Je suis un employé civil au ministère de la Défense.
Est-ce que vous avez une carte pour cette qualité?
Je n'ai pas de carte, mais j'ai des documents.
Asked how the uniform got to him, he said,
ça m'a été remis par la petite amie de l'un de mes collègues.
My colleague's girlfriend, after washing it, gave me to help hand it over to him. When he comes back, she was given the uniform to wash. Since I was traveling to Douala for a job, I took it along since I was to return to Yaoundé after 3 days.
C'est comme ça, c'était ça que la tenue se retrouve dans mon sac.
Azali Heve was also in possession of a wooden pistol.
Qui vous a doté ça? Écoute, mon petit neveu à la maison. Oui, mon petit neveu, il jouait même l'audition 2.
He claims he seized it from his 4-year-old nephew at home. He had warned not to be moving around with swords.
Je peux plus faire ça à la maison parce qu'il habite avec moi, ma fille de 4 ans.
That he had no time to discard it and preferred traveling with the fake pistol. He claims he has never used the pistol and uniform to operate.
Je n'ai jamais utilisé ça.
Tu as pris ça pour faire quoi avec?
J'ai mis ça dans le sac et voyagé parce que on s'est séparés en bande. Moi je venais ici.
Also that he had promised his nephew a better toy when he returns.
Je dis que je vais le donner, je vais le remettre le jeu quand il va rentrer.
As concerns the knife, he says it belongs to a friend who is a security guard.
Et ce poignard, ça vous sert à quoi?
Ça ne me sert absolument à rien du tout. C'est pour Akono et travail l'autorité aéronautique. Il est gardien de nuit à l'autorité aéronautique. Voilà ces choses qui sont là pour Adjabe.
Another presented suspect is Chaje Yatang Chao.
Chao, who was caught by one of our collaborators at a certain financial institution here in Douala. So he appeared dead and was roaming around for about 3 to 4 hours. That's how drew the attention of our elements who were posted at that level. So this he was arrested. He was arrested, and we found that he was having military objects inside his bag.
But this is not what the suspect recounts.
Je suis en service.
I am a civil employee in the Ministry of Defense, and I traveled to Douala upon invitation of one of my superiors based in Douala. Upon arrival, I was transported to Nkululun by Colonel Abega. I picked this military gadget in his service vehicle.
Une voiture de gendarmerie. C'est d'où alors je m'approche vers un adjudant, je lui dis.
Asked why he picked it, he could not reply.
Je ne partais pas avec lui. Je sors de Yaoundé, Abega, c'est mon ami.
Both culprits, now in custody, will be tried in court. Meantime, investigation has been opened to track down possible accomplices.
Et comme il est là, je ne le connais pas comme ça.
I picked this military gadget in his service vehicle.
Militaire, une voiture de gendarmerie. C'est d'où alors je m'approche vers un adjudant, je lui dis.
Asked why he picked it, he could not reply.
Je ne partais pas avec lui. Je sors de Yaoundé, Abega, c'est mon ami.
Both culprits, now in custody, will be tried in court. Meantime, investigation has been opened to track down possible accomplices.
Et comme il est là, je ne le connais pas comme ça. Je ne le connais pas comme ça.
In circles and solve the problem. It's very easy to solve the problem if we stick to truth and love.
In the far north region of the country, where there is equally a security problem with recurrent attacks from members of the Nigerian terrorist sect Boko Haram, the vigilante committee, the idea of vigilante committee seemed to be yielding some fruits there. But in the northwest region of the country, why can't it work?
It's a little bit tricky because the two areas, the socio-cultural picture in the two areas are different, and the groups of people are fighting for different things. Now, in the north, the Boko Haram, it's kind of a mindset that is creeping from Nigeria, coming to the north of Cameroon and spreading up to Chad and probably a little bit to Central Africa. So, and these people, you know, they have one mindset in that area, and I would think that, you know, the people who are fighting, there was a religious component to it, or probably not. You know, they were against education and some other things. But again, the banditry comes into it, and I understand they wanted to set up some kind of a caliphate or something like that. So the what is at stake is completely different. But even though what is at stake is different, what is fueling the war and making it go out of hand is poverty. Until we learn how to deal with poverty and solve issues of poverty, issues like this will always find fertile ground on which to thrive. So even if we now come down to the Anglophone sector, we'll realize that, you know, the war economics has also set in, and the fact that youths don't have jobs and youths have no sense of direction and many of these things. So all of this, at the end of the day, it's a mix of everything. It's like what we call turning cocoa, turning planty. You know, it's just a mix of everything, and you need to actually put on your thinking cap and step out of it to be able to resolve those things. So, but as long as there is bad governance, poor economics, poor education, and no sense of direction for our nations, all these things will continue to spin around until we sit down and do what is right.
Professor Maurice Kamtoan is Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party, also striving to see that there is peace and normalcy in those two regions. This is one of the reasons why they said there's no need for elections. There's no need for even the regional elections coming up in December, because that crisis has to be solved first. And there is an issue of truth, there is an issue of sincerity, there is an issue of honesty that are at stake. Some people are said not to be speaking the truth, others are speaking half-truths, others are saying other things that are not very much in the direction of solving the problem. And Professor Paul Kui said that if these elements of truth and honesty, sincerity are not there, no solution.
That's right. The Bible says, know the truth, live the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It's in the Bible. And whether you believe it or not, that's how it works. You can beat around the bush from morning till evening, but if that beating around is not going to help you, even if it takes 50 years or 100 years, it will not help you. At the end of the day, it's just truth in love that would save us. That said, you know, you are talking about the MRC party and most of these things, the politics. What is my reading of all of that? The first thing I want to say is that Professor Maurice Kamtoan doesn't love Anglophones or people of West Cameroon.
Why do you think that he does not love people from the northwest and southwest regions?
The war has been going on for 4 years. He has never set foot either in Bamenda. He has never crossed Matazem to see what is going on there. He has never gone to Boya here, except I'm not aware of it. And then he just sits over here, and then he comes to a point where he is at a crossroads and he needs something to beef off his position, and then he starts shouting Anglophones have these problems. But deep within
he has been talking about this crisis.
Yeah, everybody has been talking about it. Everybody has been talking about it. He's talking about it doesn't make him different from all the other people who are talking about it. But talking about it is one thing, doing something about it is another. Talking about it is cheap, but doing something about it is if he had been talking about it and he loaded a truck with rice and so on and drove to Bamenda and say, where are those people? Here you are, you have some rice to eat. What is the problem? And so on, and give people cold water to drink and pat people on the back, then we'll know that he was serious. But if you just sit over here and talk just like anybody, he's not different from somebody talking from America. No, he's not. It's not serious. And then
now the party is calling for a protest in September, 22nd of September, I think so, a nationwide protest and he's been meeting, he and other leaders of the party, been meeting with some other political leaders, the CPP, the PAP, in view of charting the way forward to that national protest that can push
No,
things.
it was not going to help either. You know, of course, amongst all what you are mentioning, there's only one party. It's actually just the MRC. All the other ones are just little things thrown in here and there to give it some high-sounding profile. But you know, we have 350 political parties or 40 political parties, I don't know, in the country, and so even the 300 of them came together. That is not the issue. Now, if what the opposition parties were looking for was an opportunity to change the current government or put in place a new system of doing things, and there was an easy way of them to do it. The easiest way for them to do it was when the presidential election was on, and the municipal and what other
legislative election.
Yes, it was very easy. Now, imagine what would have happened if the MRC, the SDF, and probably the 10 the strongest political parties with Cabral Libri, what if they came up and choose one good leader and stood firmly behind him, so that, you know, the UDC would be defending the vote in the Fumban area, the Cabral Libi in his Douala, in his Bassa area, they would be defending their vote, and everybody defending the vote like that, then they would have solved it. But they are so full of this ego and greed amongst themselves that they never come around to doing this, and then they think that the only time they can come around is to come around on the street and manifest. No. And this is another thing about change in Cameroon. Change in Cameroon would only come if the people who want the change do it according to God's will and purpose. If you are going to do it according to man's will and purpose, nothing will change, because the CPDM that is running the country now is running with man's will and purpose, and man's will and purpose is not of God. So if you are also coming to try to change from Satan to Satan, it doesn't work. Then that's why they will be killing, fighting, and so on, because it doesn't work. If you really want change in Cameroon, it will be only according to God's ways. And that is going to happen not long. And it will only be the CPDM that will change its course from the current CPDM of hand clappers and elites who just want food for their stomachs, to a CPDM of people who are progressive, looking forward and ready to solve the problems of the country. At that time, the country would change.
Dr.
And
Nick,
you have to work with God's principles. If not, nothing is going to change.
Dr. Nick, earlier you mentioned that young people do not have direction.
Yeah, the young people in Cameroon
do not have direction. Now, as an educationist, what is wrong with young people?
The problem is not with the young people. The young people are manifesting something that is in them. You cannot give what you don't have. So the bottom line is that those of us, the old people, the old generation, the government and everybody, we have not brought up, watch my lips, we have not brought up our youths to have the right mindset, to have the right skills, the right capacities, and what it takes to change water into wine.
In terms of education, for example.
Yeah, in terms of education, our education has been a failure for the last 60 years.
Many of the young people seem to be running towards the wrong direction.
That's correct. They are running towards the wrong direction because we never taught them from when they were young what the right direction is. So we just push them through these grammar schools, and then they pass with 10 papers and whatever, we clap for them, then we send them to universities, and they enter some boxes and in the faculties and study things that are not helpful. So at the end of the day, when they graduate, they are looking around, they don't know what to do, and all they can to do is to bribe over here, cheat over here, and go to ENAM, cheat over here, and go to the medical school, cheat over here, and do that. And then we have taught them that cheating your way around life is the best way. Having it easy is the best way. Just be a thief in a coat and a tie. So we have not really taught them what genuine work is. So when you look at most of these scams about this, sell this and you get money overnight, do this and you get money overnight. So the children are running after that, thinking that that's how it works the world over. It's not like that. And because we have not taught them the right things, they look for the easy way to life, and they spend most of the time enjoying, and they fail to go through the right door because they lack the skills, they lack the training, they lack the attitude, they lack what it takes to create wealth.
Many of them running after gambling and
That's
other
correct.
sources.
Yes, the cheap way, then prostitution, violence, all these kind of things. But so when there's a concours, for instance, concours to go to ENAM, you will see 25,000 of them. 25,000, and only 1,000 are taken. Ask yourself, the 24,000, where do they go to? So this very 24,000 will move to go and write the other concours. So at the end of the day, the few of them who cheat their way through the system, they get to do a profession that doesn't come from within. And therefore, even though you will succeed as an SDO or a DO or a teacher or a whatever or a medical doctor, it's not your calling, and therefore you are not productive, and that's why the country is failing.
In some few words, Dr. Nick Ngoyen, what should the young people be running after? Agriculture, science and technology?
See, if we took only agriculture and develop agriculture in this nation, we can create 2 million jobs for youth in every 2 years. If the government wanted to, the government could do that and help youths. And you know, we are spending about 300 billion importing just rice and fish, and that money, about 300 billion, if we put on our thinking caps, we could help youths to grow that rice and fish just in Cameroon here, and there will be jobs. And agriculture is the bedrock of all industries, is the bedrock of all countries. America is the greatest nation on earth, but agriculture is their bedrock. Go and take the agriculture away from them and they will collapse.
Dr. Nick Ngoyen will certainly have another opportunity to get into what you're saying now in greater details, and of course in order to enlighten the young people to make the right choices for the right results. Dr. Nick Ngoyen, educationist and political analyst, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. De lundi à vendredi sur